The Magistrate Lu is a story from the collection Strange Stories from a Chinese Studio. The story mainly revolves around the protagonist Zhu Erdan's extraordinary encounters with Magistrate Lu, involving magical events where Magistrate Lu swaps hearts with Zhu Erdan and switches heads with Zhu's wife. These bizarre and captivating episodes weave a mysterious and captivating narrative. Zhu Erdan was a man from Lingyang, known as Zhao Ming by his courtesy name. He had a bold and unrestrained nature, but he was also slow-witted. Despite his diligence in studying, he never achieved fame. One day, Zhu Erdan was drinking with some literary friends. One of them jokingly said, "Since you are renowned for your boldness, if you can go to the Ten Kings Temple in the middle of the night and bring back the magistrate from the left corridor, we will treat you to drinks." In Lingyang, there was a Ten Kings Temple with wooden statues of ghosts and deities that were intricately carved and vividly adorned. In the eastern corridor of the main hall stood a magistrate statue. With a green face and a fierce red beard, its appearance particularly grim and menacing. People claimed to have heard sounds of interrogation and torture coming from the corridors at night. Anyone who entered the temple couldn't help but shiver. This challenge was put forth to embarrass Zhu Erdan. Upon hearing this, Zhu smiled, got up from his seat, and left. Not long after, a voice outside the door exclaimed, "I've brought the big bearded master here." Startled, everyone stood up, only to see Zhu Erdan carrying the magistrate into the room. He placed the magistrate on the table and raised his cup, toasting 3 times. As everyone saw the magistrate's appearance, fear and unease swept over them, and they quickly requested Zhu Erdan to return the statue. Zhu lifted his cup again, poured a libation on the ground, and said in a prayer, "Forgive my rudeness. Surely, the venerable magistrate won't take offense. My home is not far from here. Whenever you're inclined, please visit for a few drinks." Without regard for the difference between mortals and spirits, with that, he carried the magistrate back. The next day, true to their words, everyone invited Zhu Erdan for drinks. They continued drinking until evening, and Zhu Erdan, already inebriated, returned home. Still under the influence, he lit a lamp and poured himself another drink. Suddenly, someone entered through the door curtain. Zhu Erdan looked up, and was astonished to see the magistrate. Hurriedly, he stood up, and said, "Oh no. It seems I'm going to die. I offended you last night, and tonight you've come to take my life, haven't you?" The big bearded magistrate chuckled and said, "No, that's not it. Thanks to your generous invitation last night, and since I had some free time tonight, I've come to honor the invitation of a discerning person like you." Delighted, Zhu Erdan pulled the magistrate's robe, urging him to sit, while he himself went to prepare wine in cups. The magistrate said, "It's warm, so let's have chilled wine." Zhu Erdan complied, placing a wine bottle on the table and rushing to instruct his family to prepare dishes and fruits. When his wife learned of this, she was shocked and tried to dissuade him from going out. Ignoring her, Zhu Erdan waited until the food was ready. Then he brought it over, changed the cup, and the two of them started drinking. Zhu Erdan asked for the magistrate's name, to which the magistrate replied, "I'm surnamed Lu, but I don't have a personal name." Zhu Erdan engaged him in discussions about classical learning, and Magistrate Lu responded eloquently. Zhu Erdan inquired, "Do you understand the current style of writing?" Magistrate Lu said, "I can still tell good from bad. Writing and studying in the underworld is similar to that in the human world." Magistrate Lu had a high alcohol tolerance, downing 10 cups in a row. As Zhu Erdan had been drinking all day, he didn't feel particularly drunk and instead lay his head on the table and fell asleep. When he woke up later, he saw the dim candlelight, and the ghostly visitor had already departed. From then on, Magistrate Lu visited every 2 or 3 days, and their relationship grew stronger. They often slept side by side. Zhu Erdan showed his compositions to Magistrate Lu, who corrected them with a red pen, often marking them as inadequate. One night, after a bout of drinking, Zhu Erdan went to sleep on his own, while Magistrate Lu continued to drink. In his dream, Zhu Erdan suddenly felt a slight pain in his abdomen. Upon waking, he saw Magistrate Lu sitting before him, having opened his stomach. and pulled out his intestines, meticulously arranging them one by one. Startled, Zhu Erdan exclaimed, "We have no quarrel. Why would you kill me?" Magistrate Lu smiled and said, "Don't be afraid. I am replacing your heart with a more intelligent one." He calmly reorganized the intestines, closed the incision, and finally wrapped Zhu Erdan's waist with cloth. Seeing no trace of blood on the bed, Zhu Erdan felt a slight numbness in his abdomen. He noticed Magistrate Lu had placed a lump of meat on the table and inquired about it. Magistrate Lu replied, "This is your original heart. Your lack of wit is due to a blockage in your heart. In the underworld, I selected the best heart from among thousands and replaced yours. Consider this to fill the deficiency." With that, he got up and closed the door, leaving. By dawn, Zhu Erdan untied the cloth and saw that the wound had healed, leaving only a red line on his abdomen. From then on, his intellectual capacity greatly improved, and he could remember things he had seen at a glance. After a few days, he showed his compositions to Magistrate Lu, who commented, "They're acceptable. But you have limited luck. You won't become a high-ranking official. At best, you'll pass the imperial examination." Zhu Erdan asked, "When will that happen?" "This year. You'll be the top scorer," Magistrate Lu replied, "not long after." Zhu Erdan became the top scholar in the provincial examination, and later the top scorer in the metropolitan examination for the next level of scholar. His former friends and classmates who had looked down on him were now amazed when they saw his examination papers. After inquiring further from Zhu Erdan, they learned about Magistrate Lu's involvement and requested an introduction. Everyone wanted to meet him. Magistrate Lu happily agreed, and a grand feast was prepared to welcome him. Around the second watch of the night, Magistrate Lu arrived. His red beard fluttered, and his sharp gaze was like lightning, piercing through people's hearts. The faces of those present turned pale, and their teeth chattered involuntarily. Before long, one after another, they left their seats and fled. Zhu Erdan invited Magistrate Lu to his house to continue drinking. As they became tipsy, Zhu Erdan said, "You've already washed my intestines and replaced my heart. I owe you a great debt. There's one more thing I'd like to trouble you with, if you don't mind." Magistrate Lu urged him to speak. Zhu Erdan said, "Since hearts and intestines can be replaced, I assume faces can be changed too. My wife's body is still fine, but her appearance isn't very attractive. I was wondering if I could trouble you to do some work with your knife. What do you think?" Magistrate Lu chuckled and replied, "All right, let me think of a way." A few days later, Magistrate Lu knocked on Zhu Erdan's door in the middle of the night. Zhu Erdan hurriedly got up to let him in. When he lit a candle and saw Magistrate Lu holding something wrapped in his robe, Zhu Erdan asked what it was. Magistrate Lu said, "The task you entrusted me with hasn't been easy to fulfill. However, I happen to obtain the head of a beautiful woman. That's why I've come to fulfill my promise." Zhu Erdan moved aside the robe, revealing a head with wet blood on the neck. Magistrate Lu urged him to move quickly to the bedroom without disturbing anyone. Zhu Erdan worried that the bedroom door was bolted shut for the night. As soon as Magistrate Lu approached, he extended a hand and the door opened. Inside the bedroom, they found Zhu Erdan's wife sleeping on her side in the bed. Magistrate Lu handed the head to Zhu Erdan and drew a dagger from his boot. With one hand holding Zhu's wife's neck, he used the other hand to make a clean cut, and her head rolled to the side of the pillow. Magistrate Lu swiftly took the beautiful head from Zhu Erdan, placed it on his wife's neck, adjusted its position, pressed it firmly, and then moved the pillow to conceal it. Once everything was done, he instructed Zhu Erdan to bury the severed head in an uninhabited area before leaving. The next morning, Zhu's wife woke up, feeling a slight numbness on her neck and her face dry. As she rubbed her face, she noticed traces of blood on her hand, prompting her to panic. She called a maidservant to bring water to wash her face, and when the maidservant saw her blood-stained face, she was utterly horrified. After washing her face, a basin of water turned red. When she looked up, the maidservant was even more astonished at her drastically changed appearance. Zhu Erdan entered the room and recounted the story of Magistrate Lu's head swapping to his wife. He examined her closely and found her eyebrows gracefully arched, dimples on both sides of her cheeks, like paintings of a beauty. Unbuttoning her collar, he saw a red line around her neck, where the skin above and below the line was of different colors. Before this, a certain assistant minister Wu had a daughter who was exceedingly beautiful. She had been engaged twice, but both times her prospective husband died before the wedding. Consequently, she reached the age of 19 without getting married. During the Lantern Festival, the daughter visited the Ten Kings Temple. Among the numerous visitors, a scoundrel took note of her exquisite appearance and secretly investigated her family. At night, he used a ladder to scale the wall, entered her courtyard, made a hole in her bedroom door, and crawled in. First, he killed a maidservant under the bed, then he threatened to assault the daughter. She fiercely resisted and cried out for help, but the scoundrel, in a fit of rage, beheaded her. Lady Wu heard commotion from her daughter's room and sent a maidservant to check. When the maidservant saw the corpse in the room, she nearly fainted. The whole family came rushing, placing the corpse in the main room and the daughter's head beside her neck. The family wailed and sobbed all night in confusion. At dawn on the second day, Lady Wu lifted the bedsheet covering her daughter's corpse and found the body still there, but the head was missing. Outraged, she severely punished the maidservants responsible for guarding the corpse, assuming they had been negligent and that dogs had taken the head away. Assistant Minister Wu promptly reported the incident to the local authorities. The county magistrate ordered a swift capture of the murderer, but after 3 months, the culprit remained elusive. Shortly after, news of Zhu Erdan's wife having her head swapped spread and eventually reached Assistant Minister Wu's ears. He became suspicious and dispatched an old woman as a pretext to visit Zhu's house and investigate. Upon seeing Zhu's wife, the old woman was immediately horrified and rushed back to inform Assistant Minister Wu. When Assistant Minister Wu saw that his daughter's body was still present, he was uncertain and speculated that Zhu Erdan might have used dark arts to kill his daughter. Consequently, he personally went to question Zhu Erdan. Zhu stated, "My wife's head was swapped while she was asleep, and I truly don't know what happened. Accusing me of killing your daughter is a grave injustice." Assistant Minister Wu was incredulous and reported the matter to the local authorities. The county magistrate summoned Zhu Erdan's family for interrogation, and the results matched Zhu's account. The county magistrate, however, couldn't come to a definite conclusion. After returning home, Zhu Erdan sought advice from Magistrate Lu. Magistrate Lu said, "This is not difficult. I'll let his daughter explain it herself." That night, Assistant Minister Wu dreamt that his daughter told him, "I was killed by Yang Danian from Suxi. It has nothing to do with Scholar Zhu." Scholar Zhu wanted to improve his wife's appearance, so Magistrate Lu swapped the heads. "Although I am dead, my head is still alive. Please, let our families not be enemies with Scholar Zhu." Upon waking up, Assistant Minister Wu hurriedly shared the dream with his wife, who had had a similar dream. They informed the local authorities, and indeed, there was a person named Yang Danian. They immediately arrested him and subjected him to torture, and Yang Danian confessed to the crime. Assistant Minister Wu visited Zhu Erdan and requested to see his wife. He acknowledged Zhu's wife as his daughter and formed a bond of kinship with Zhu Erdan. They buried Zhu's wife's head on the body of Assistant Minister Wu's daughter. Later, Zhu Erdan attempted the imperial examination 3 more times. But each time he was disqualified for violating examination rules. Discouraged, he gave up the idea of becoming an official. After 30 years, one night, Magistrate Lu informed Zhu Erdan, "Your life is nearing its end." Zhu Erdan inquired about the date of his death, and Magistrate Lu replied that it would be in 5 days. Zhu Erdan asked if it could be averted. Magistrate Lu said, "Life and death are determined by fate. How can humans change that? Furthermore, to those who possess true wisdom, life and death are the same. Why should we consider being alive as happiness and death as sorrow?" Zhu Erdan agreed with his words, and he began to prepare his shroud and coffin. 5 days later, dressed in his finest attire, he passed away. The next day, as Lady Zhu was supporting the coffin and grieving, Zhu Erdan suddenly appeared in a trance from outside. Lady Zhu was afraid, and Zhu Erdan said, I am indeed a ghost, but there's not much difference from when I was alive. I'm worried about you, a widow with orphans, and I can't bear to leave. Upon hearing this, Lady Zhu wailed loudly, tears flowing down to her chest. Zhu Erdan lovingly comforted his wife, and she said, in ancient times, there were stories of souls returning. Since you still have a spirit, why not be reincarnated? Zhu Erdan replied, how can one go against destiny? His wife asked again, what do you do in the underworld? Zhu Erdan answered, Magistrate Lu recommended me to oversee documents and even granted me an official title. It's not unpleasant. His wife wanted to ask more, but Zhu Erdan said, Magistrate Lu and I have come together. Prepare some food and drinks quickly. After saying that, he left. Lady Zhu immediately followed her husband's instructions and began preparations. Later, they heard Magistrate Lu and Zhu Erdan drinking and laughing inside, their voices and tones reminiscent of their past. By midnight, when they looked again, both of them had vanished. From then on, Zhu Erdan came every few days, sometimes staying overnight at home with his wife and tending to household matters. At that time, his son Zhu Wei was only 5 years old. When Zhu Erdan visited, he would hold him. As Zhu Wei grew to 7 or 8 years old, Zhu Erdan would teach him to read under the lamplight. The son was intelligent and was able to write essays at 9 years old. At 15, he entered the county school, all the while unaware that his father had passed away many years ago. However, Zhu Erdan's visits gradually became less frequent, sometimes occurring only every couple of months. One evening, Zhu Erdan came again and told his wife, now it's time for us to part forever. His wife asked, where are you going? Zhu replied, God has appointed me as the Tahua king, and I must depart for a distant place for my official duties. My responsibilities are numerous, and the journey is long, so I won't be able to come anymore. His wife and son, upon hearing this, embraced him and wept. Zhu Erdan consoled them, saying, don't be like this. Our son has grown into an adult, and our family situation is still decent. In this world, there's no couple that can remain together for 100 years. He looked at his son and advised him, be a good person, and don't neglect the education your father imparted to you. We can meet again in 10 years. After finishing his words, he walked out directly. From then on, he never returned again. Later, when Zhu Wei was 25, he passed the imperial examination and became an envoy, receiving an imperial order to worship Mount Hua. When passing through Huan, suddenly a procession of people, on horseback with ceremonial equipment, rushed forward without giving way to Zhu Wei's entourage. Zhu Wei was extremely surprised and looked closely at the person sitting in the carriage, only to find it was his father. Zhu Wei quickly dismounted and knelt by the roadside, weeping bitterly. His father stopped the carriage and said, your reputation as an official is excellent. I can now close my eyes. Zhu Wei remained kneeling on the ground, unable to rise. Zhu Erdan disregarded his son's reluctance, urging the carriage to speed away. Just as they had walked a few steps, he turned back, took off his dagger, and sent someone back to give it to Zhu Wei, shouting from a distance, wear this dagger, and you'll have prosperity and wealth. Zhu Wei wanted to chase after him, but his father's carriage seemed to float away like the wind, and vanished in an instant. Zhu Wei remained sorrowful for a long time, with no choice but to accept the situation. He took out the dagger his father had given him and looked at it. The craftsmanship was exquisite, and the blade was inscribed with a line of words, with boldness, the heart should remain small. With wisdom, the circle should be complete. With action, it should be righteous. Later on, Zhu Wei's career advanced, and he eventually became a Sima and official rank. He had 5 sons in succession, Zhu Chen, Zhu Qian, Zhu Ti, Zhu Hun, and Zhu Shen. One night, Zhu Wei dreamt that his father told him, give the dagger to Zhu Shen. Zhu Wei complied. Later, Zhu Shen rose to the position of Zonggoxian and had significant influence in politics. Yi Shishi comments, mending the legs of a crane onto a duck, as whimsical as it is a fabrication. Grafting flowers onto trees, initiated by certain individuals, is truly miraculous. Moreover, if one considers reshaping liver and intestines in people, referring to the heart replacement for Zhu Sheng, and wielding knives on necks, as in Zhu's wife's head replacement, then Magistrate Lu can be described as a ghostly judge with an ugly appearance but a beautiful heart. Not too distant from the end of the Ming dynasty to the present day, who knows if the Magistrate Lu from Lingyang is still around? If his spirit persists, it would be an honor to serve him, even as a servant holding the reins of his carriage. Alright, this story has come to an end. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. Thank you.